Thanks so much, Josh, and hello everyone. It's really good to be here. Um, Happy Tuesday. I work with Mitsui Collective. Just to say a word, first of all, Mitsui is an Aramaic word. It means the activation of potential. And especially, really all the time, but especially during this time of the Omer, where we're moving, sort of growing in our potential from Passover to Shavuot, growing into our liberation and our freedom, getting ready to receive the wisdom of Torah. That feels like that activation is particularly resonant right now. Our mission is to build resilient community through embodied Jewish practice and racial equity. And today we're going to do some breath work, some vocalization, and just a little bit of light movement as sort of a route that in many ways will be probably very similar and in some ways perhaps a little different from some of the different mindfulness and meditation things that you all do together in this space every day. And so I'm excited to be here with you all and guide us into this practice. So for the first part, we're gonna go through sort of a few different layers of this as we build the practice together. So we're in the week of Hod and really tapping into that sense of gratitude. And so what I'd like for you to do right now is just to think, what do we do when we feel, if we've eaten something and we feel really grateful to have eaten it, we do this, we go, hmm. So go ahead and do that. And remember, you're muted, so we can't hear you. So just do it for yourself. Hmm. And maybe just do some different right? Just play with some different ways of making that sort of same sound. Thinking about maybe different foods that you eat that might have slightly different right? Or right? Or maybe it's the experience. Maybe you're stepping out. Maybe you saw, if anyone saw the full moon last night and you thought right? So keep on doing those, making those sounds, right? So what we're doing here, and if we start to maybe hold that from to we're humming, right? So go ahead and start humming just quietly, right? See if you can both hum quietly for yourself and also hear, right? And maybe you're humming along with me, maybe you're harmonizing, maybe you're just doing your own melody, whatever is feeling like it's coming to you right now. I'm tapping into that sense of humming and tapping into that sort of expression of gratitude and feeling the reverberations in the inside of our mouths as we make that right? So the sound of the hum is that is the mem. So to want to bring in a little bit of teachings from Victoria Hanna, who's a Kabbalist and vocal artist, an amazing teacher who've had a chance to learn a little bit from. And so she uses, talks about the mem. We think about the shape of the mem, and it's this almost entirely closed circle, but it has a little gap in the bottom. So we're thinking about our mouth as the shape of the mem. So hum and think about sort of just that the breath and your vibrations that you're creating are humming around in the mem of your mouth, and maybe even just play with a little and even just sort of like chew on it a little bit. If you sound a little funny, don't worry, no one can hear you. So keep on playing with it a little bit. So that's the mem. And now as we continue to sort of feel the mem, which is one of the mother letters in Kabbalah, let's move it now, and you're feeling it in your mouth and feeling it at the bottom. And now see as you hum, if you can feel it now in your belly, sort of at the base of the diaphragm. As you hum, feel that vibration, feel the resonance in the belly, as well as coming up through the vocal cords and through the mouth. So that's Hod. We're in this space of the mem, of gratitude, feeling the vibrations moving around. I want to bring it now into the spirit of today specifically, which is Gevura inside of Hod. Gevura is strength, is firmness, amongst other things. And so I want to now bring in our spine as a sort of our central guiding sort of core. And so go ahead and if your eyes have been closed, you can open them back up and just sort of take a look. And let's just start here. I'm just sort of moving back and forth. Some of you started to do this just without even thinking about it as you were humming, right? The two often go together. Let's just start swaying back and forth. Give a little attention to sort of how you're sitting, right? Maybe you want to sort of tuck your tail a little bit, wiggle your sit bones, so you sort of just have that sort of base that's not rigid, but you can feel a little bit of movement around. And let's start to maybe still in the spine, not necessarily in the hips, but moving from the spine. Just start to do some circles. Maybe some bigger ones, some smaller ones. Play with it, change directions. Can move through the whole spine, some bigger circles. See if you can now just move in sort of the lumbar, just the very bottom third of the spine. Kind of wiggle your hips around by moving through the spine. Now move it into your upper half of the spine, thoracic. And see if you can just move that part of the spine. This is the really amazing thing about the spine, is that it carries all of this strength, but it's also fluid, it's flexible, it's meant to really move around. And now just play with it. Maybe see if you can do some waves in the spine. Maybe forwards, side to side. See if there are areas that feel like, oh yeah, I want to try to move that vertebrae right there. Kind of stretch and flex and move it around. Follow the pleasure, follow what feels good in the body here. And then finally, let's just see if we can make some spirals in the spine. So starting with that circle maybe at the top and then spiraling it, corkscrewing it down. See if you can sort of get that sense of smooth spiral as you sort of go vertically down and then back up the spine. And go the other direction. And now let's add the breath. So now as you breathe in, think about really breathing into that spiral. Spiral all the way down as you breathe in, and then try to feel the breath going up through the spiral as you exhale. Find the rhythm of the breath, the rhythm of the movement, so that they're aligning, they're integrating. Try going in both directions. And now let's start to just bring the movement of the spine ever more subtle and slight, but keep the breath going through that spiral. And see if you can feel the breath moving by itself in a spiral as it moves deep and down through the torso, down into the diaphragm, and then slowly spiral back up. Trying to just get a sense of guiding the breath through the body. probably still feeling a little bit of just subtle movement through the spine. That's good. Don't need to stop completely. And let's take another breath in and out. And now we can just pause that movement for a moment. So we began with the humming and sort of feeling that vibration, feeling the resonance through the body, and then moved into the spine. I'm going to move into the final part of our practice, and I'm going to give us a few more sort of cues, and then give us a chance to just be in the space on our own, but also together. So next I want us to now really, if your feet are not on the ground, so you go ahead and put them on a position on the ground. Find a comfortable position, but also really try to open your toes up a little bit. Really feel that connection. And if you can, if your feet are not able to go on the ground, then feel that connection through the chair, right? Whatever the different points of contact are that then contact the ground. Maybe if you're on not the first floor, right? Whatever floor, just try to ground all the way through so you're feeling that connection to the earth. And now, let's just begin moving a little bit again through the spine, but feeling the groundedness now through our feet, through our sit bones, those points of connection that ground us to the earth, and feel those roots. And now as we're swaying through the spine, we're like a tree that's moving in the wind, that's able to move back and forth, that's able to be moved by the wind, but is deeply rooted. It's not going anywhere, right? It's flexible and also strong. And now let's come back to that, keep on moving and bringing back now the hum. And we bring in now this sort of third meta layer of the mem, which is the earthly realm. We start in our mouths, in our vocal cords, we move it through to the belly, the diaphragm, and then we feel that connection to the earth. So as you hum, try to feel those vibrations moving through you and all the way down into the earth. Moving through the legs, through the toes, all the way down through those points of connection. In a moment, I'm going to start putting on some music. And I'm just going to stop talking and let the music go. And I invite you to hum with the music, to keep on moving, and to let also the music move you. Feel the music in your body, feel it through your ears, feel it move through the body, down to the earth and back. So you're doing this, keep humming, keep swaying, keep moving. And just notice when you sort of are tapping into different states of mindfulness, of meditation, of attunement. And the final thing I'll offer before we start with this last piece is that if you have your eyes closed, I actually want you to open your eyes. I want you to click on gallery view if you have speaker view on right now. And as we are moving, to see everyone on the screen as well. Humming, moving together. We can't hear each other because it's best to stay on mute for, all the reasons, but we can see each other, right? And you can go back and forth, you can close your eyes, you can open them, right? Just notice what you want to do, but invite you to at least open your eyes some of the time, maybe even all of the time. Even right now, we just notice, what's it feel like to see folks moving on the screen, right? It's a little different than just the normal, unmoving bodies. So I'm going to put some music on. In a moment, I'll ring a chime that'll sort of be the official start. Allow us to again be in our bodies, feel the vibration, hum with the music, sway, move with the music, move with each other. In a few moments, I'm going to ring the chime again. Music playing. Invite us to move into just a very subtle movement. Sit in that stillness for our final several minutes. Movement of breath. As the music comes to a close, we'll sit for a few more moments in silence, hearing the music inside us, the breath, noticing our heartbeat. You tune back into that sense of connection to our breath, to the earth, to our bodies, in movement and in stillness. We notice the moments that we felt a sense of gratitude, and the moments within that gratitude that we felt a sense of purpose, of resolve, of strength, firmly grounded, firmly rooted, with a soft heart and a supple spine. I invite you now just to start moving slowly in the spine again as we come out of our stillness practice. Maybe you feel on the exhale, just returning to that sense of gratitude. If your eyes are closed, you can begin to open them back up. Thank you.
Thank you, Yoshi. Before we recite Morning's Kaddish, I just want to remind you that if you'd like to stay on for a few minutes at noon, or at 1 o'clock Eastern rather, that Yoshi and I will be happy to have a conversation and talk about questions or comments or observations about the practice. But we are going to conclude with Morning's Kaddish. If you are holding someone in your mind or heart or memory today, want to share their name in the chat, please feel welcome to do so. Adi is going to put the text of Kaddish up on the screen, and you should feel welcome to unmute yourself if you'd like, and you can join me. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah,
Amen.
Yalma divra chirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yamechon, u'v'chayei b'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru Amen.
Amen.
Yishmei Rabba Mevarach Le'alam Amen. Yitvarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal Shmei zehudcha b'richa ve'ela min kol birchata v'shirata shvechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen.
Amen.
Hey Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mama Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel V'imru Amen.
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 Amen. All right. Thank you again, Yoshi, for that beautiful teaching. Before we close, I'll share again in the chat box the link to our website, where if you're able and so moved, you can make a donation in support of the work of IJS. We're grateful for your support and grateful to all of you for helping to create this beautiful community of practice every day. For those who are leaving now, we wish you good health and shalom. Hope to see you again tomorrow at the same time. Those who would like to stay are welcome to stay here and ask Yoshi any questions or share your reflection on today's experience. Yoshi, so thank you again so much. Such a pleasure to be able to practice with you. And I was just really struck by the integration of the body movement and sound. I was an orchestra conductor in college prior to my rabbinic calling, and it felt like I was taking me back to integrating all of that. And I wonder if you want to tell us a little bit more about how that practice has developed for you, or what some of the, it feels like you're putting together some different pieces here, and so we'd love to hear a little bit more about it.
Yeah, thank you. One, some folks were asking the music. I popped it up, but it was right before Kaddish. So let me pop
Yeah.
it in here so folks can see it again. So that's Faith's Hymn by Beautiful Chorus. Um, so there's a few different the practice today was pulling in a few different sort of sources and integrating them together. So, I mean, it's funny that I mentioned the vocalization part came from Victoria Hanna, who actually well, I don't use every single time I lead something, but I did bring some of her work in last time I led an IJS sit. So something about this context is compels me to that. So the I think part of what I really connect with Victoria's work, because it connects with what I find it just really inspiring for a lot of my work is a couple of things. So that work really draws directly from Sefer Yetzirah, which is the Book of Formation. It's one of the core texts of Kabbalah. And the one of the passages in the Book of Formation says talks about the 22 elemental letters of creation. So there's 22 letters of the alphabet, the Hebrew alphabet, and it says, and God used those letters to basically create the world, and is continuing to use those to create the world. And that's really pulling from the very first few verses of Torah, which basically say, in the beginning there was the world was formless, it was void, right? And that God spoke the world into being. Like the first act of creation is through speaking. And so it's really taking that, saying, well, if God is speaking the world into being, then what's coming through the breath? It's these metaphysical letters that God uses to create the world. And so it sort of takes that and really moves with it. So that's a core text for me that I am very inspired by. It then goes on to discuss to talk about Avraham and Avraham's ability to sort of tap into that same creative energy, and that is what God saw that made God, and then God manifests to Abraham. So there's the creative expression that's a really important piece for me, for whether it's the breath work or the movement work, is how do we express ourselves creatively through our bodies, and also how do we co-create the world alongside each other and the divine. And so also the principle of B'Tselem Elohim, that we're all in the divine image. To me, part of what that means is that literally creative divine self. How do we tap into that through practices? So yeah, thank you. Victoria Hanna is the vocalization work. And so that's really thinking about this empty space around us is like a blank piece of paper. And whether it's through our voice, our breath, moving our bodies, that we're carving into the space, right? And creating in the space just in the way that you would draw or write on paper, right? But we're doing that in sort of the three-dimensional space around us. So that's really where the first piece comes from. And then some of the other pieces, one come from, I think the main thing I was thinking about today, the spinal work is adapted from just some general movement practice. Ido Portal, who's an Israeli movement practitioner, I've learned from some with, and some other folks. But I think also really through the spinal work and also through the humming, Those are really tapping into some of the somatic abolition work. So thinking about anti-racism work or racial equity work through somatic embodied lenses. And so when we hum and when we move the spine, we're tapping into the vagus nerve, which is there's a lot of new science, which I'm not like I'm still learning a lot about myself, but it sort of taps into this deeper sense, sort of like the lizard brain, right? The an older part of our bodies that sort of sits underneath our sort of thinking brains and allows us to get deeper into the parts of ourselves that are experiencing the world, that are sensing the world, even if they're not sort of at the top level of what we're aware of. So the more we can attune to that, helps us to be more in our bodies and our spaces, and also connecting with each other, and connecting with sort of the wisdom and knowledge that our bodies hold, and to really also just sort of free us up and loosen us up and get things like our emotions and our hormones and everything just like moving through, out of a place of constriction and sort of more fluidly through the body.
Fantastic. There was a question also about today's, today in the Omer, right, is Gvura Shebahod. And you spoke to it for, briefly you touched on it, but I wonder if you want to take a chance, take an opportunity to sort of go a little bit more in how you're thinking about that. What's your,
Yeah.
how would you interpret it?
Yeah. So I think there are there's definitely some aspects of the embodiment and how that maps, with the Sfirot and the Omer, that I'm learning about. And I think there's both sort of an established, relatively established sort of body, but I think there's a lot of also room for exploration. So I'm sure some folks have seen there's different ways that the Sfirot, are mapped out along the body. So you have the sort of 10, the first three that are up here, and then the lower seven all map out through here. And so I think there are some rich ways to think about, something like Netzach last week, for example. One of our teachers was leading us through this practice that was really playing with the right hip, which is where Netzach is sort of located. So I didn't do that specifically today, but there's other times that we play with that. For me, what I really like to do is sort of almost take a step back and just think, what are just the overarching sort of, expressions and connotations that are happening on the given day and the given week of the Omer. And then out of a whole range of different practices, some of which sort of have specific roots in Jewish text or narrative or tradition, and some of which come from somewhere totally different, um, but allow us to tap into sort of the same thematic elements,
Yeah.
of things. So I think for me, I just really like to sort of play with that and to mix and match. Sometimes I also, I'm mixed race. I'm Chinese, from my mom's side, and Eastern European Ashkenazi from my dad's side. Grew up playing music and also doing martial arts and connecting with nature. And so there are times when some of that, sometimes more explicitly, sometimes more implicitly, sort of makes its way into my work as well.
Mm, that's great. Just a number of really big, nice endorsements here. Yoshi, clearly we're doing a lot of good work for a lot of people. There was one question here, where Elizabeth asked the question, I'm curious why the spirals didn't go up through the cervical and up into and out of the crown as well as down into the earth. So I
Yeah,
wonder if that was, yeah, comment on that if you want.
great. Next time.
I
There,
figured.
there's no that was not purposefully excluded. I think it was more just
Yeah,
like kind of already given folks a number of things to think about, and I didn't want to
yeah,
give too many more.
yeah.
And absolutely, I mean, that absolutely connects with some of just like the movement through the sphere road and the connection of Earth and divine. So absolutely, that's an aspect that could be connected. The other thing that I didn't say in the practice, but just thinking about spirals, I really think about the spiral really as the representation of Jewish time, which is
Mm,
the combination of linear and cyclical. So it's cyclical in the lunar calendar, right? It follows the cycles of the moon, amongst other things. But it's also linear. Part of that is represented, I think, in following the sort of and the solar year, and that we align with the seasons and our calendar adjusts, to align with those, and just has that sense of forward progression through time, or forward, as well as that cyclical. So it's that spiraling. And so I think when we bring that into the body, we're also sort of tapping into that sense of just like time and space through a
Yeah,
Jewish lens.
great. Um, if people wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. I will put my website. So mitsuicollective.org is the website. And then we're on social media at Mitsui Collective. Mitsui is Aramaic for the activation of potential. Same root as motzi, or limtso to search out, and also matzah, right? So we can think about matzah as like squelched potential, and motzi as like the full, the bread that rose, that kind of reached its full potential. I'm in the Cleveland area, Shaker Heights on Erie, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee land. Just seeing a couple other. The spine practice doesn't come directly from Kundalini yoga. I don't have. I have a very minimal yoga exposure, so it doesn't not come from that. But I'm not pulling it in from that. I think those were some of the main questions that I saw.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much. Yoshi, it's great to have you here, and clearly a lot of people want you back. So hopefully we will make it not so long, and have you back here soon. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us, and we will see you back here tomorrow at our regular time.